Welcome to unofficial commentary by the unqualified. I am Adam. That is probably the best way we can start off. I don't know if triumphant is the right word to describe our return to this show. We have done a great many different formats on this show over the years to try various things. This started out as a few episodes we did on 30-minute reviews where we just did commentary on movies, and we migrated it to its own show on a commentary by the unqualified, where Peter and I would do commentary tracks over movies. I think we did Clerks, we did Clerks, we did Jurassic World, The Shining, all that good stuff. Because it was just fun to do. It gave us an excuse to watch movies and talk about them, talk in depth about what they're doing as it's happening, make jokes as needed. Kind of the things that we were doing anyway. We just decided to put a microphone in front of it. Anyway, so then both graduated college, went to other ends of the country. Couldn't quite coordinate that because of time change. We both needed to allow 2 hours to sit there, 3 hours really, because it's 2.5 hours for the movie, plus a half hour to actually record it. Then that was so we didn't really pick up with that format after that point, because how can we really do that? And besides, when we weren't really adding anything to the movie. We weren't quite doing riff tracks level comedy or anything like that. We were just kind of there. So we decided to just shelve that. Then we decided that the best way to go about with this podcast was to keep the name Unofficial Commentary by the Unqualified and go into sports, because most sportscasters have played the sport, coached the sport, been in the room the sport was played in or something like that, and weren't just two guys who appreciated watching it. So the name still fit, but again the issue came where we weren't giving any new insight that wasn't already given. And we weren't adding anything that you weren't getting from Stephen A. Smith, who is a substantially better entertainer than I am, or Adam Shine, or Mad Dog Russo, or Mike Francesa, the man, the myth, the legend himself. So we retired that too. Then we went on and tried to do politics, which the name still fit again because I was a political science major, but in the loosest definition of the word, considering I went to about 4 classes ever, and I graduated with a 203 or something like that. So, you know what, it doesn't always work out that way. So, the name still fit. We weren't politicians. We didn't work in the news. We didn't work anywhere like that. And we tried to start with talking about the debate. And the problem becomes writing stuff down. And that was my big problem, is I wouldn't write stuff down, and then I would try and talk about it a week later, like it was still fresh in my head, and then you'd end up with problems with that. So, that we also shelved shortly after the 2016 election, and we're like, well, what are we going to add to this fiasco going on in real life? We have nothing that we can add to this that'll make it either any less funny, any less terrifying, or, depending on who you ask. So we shelved. Basically, the show's been on the shelf for a long time now, and here we are. It is 2 days after the midterm elections in 2018, and I've decided now is as good a time as any to revive Unofficial Commentary by the Unqualified. And really, the name doesn't quite fit anymore, because as we've seen from the elections, there is no one unqualified to discuss politics. That's what makes politics in America, I don't want to say great, because saying that something is great has a connotation to a certain person I don't want to talk about, but we're going to add, it is what makes this country great. It's the fact that anyone, regardless of who they are, where they're from, or what they're doing, can come up and they can get into politics and attempt to make a change. We saw this in New York 14, where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was a former bartender, is now the youngest woman ever to serve in the House of Representatives. We have the first Muslim woman ever, the first Muslim person ever, forget Muslim woman, first Muslim person ever elected to the House of Representatives. We have a record 100 women now serving in Congress. Anyone can do this if they want to. And you have these grassroots campaigns almost unseating Ted Cruz in Texas. Ted fucking Cruz almost got knocked out of office by Beto O'Rourke. And it's just proving that there is no qualification that you can, that you need to be able to discuss politics. There is no job that makes you more qualified or less qualified than any other person to discuss politics. You discuss politics if you want to discuss politics, and if you do, then you have that right. That is your right. That is part of the fundamental fabric of this country. That said, we're going to talk about a district that didn't really get talked about on election night because the incumbent won. And if you listen to this show and you want me to talk about your local election, or if you want to write in and you want to comment on it, by all means, you can email. We use the same email for all 4 of the podcasts. It's 30minutereviews@gmail.com. You can tweet at me at AdamTaylor792. I will attempt to talk about them all in future episodes. But really, because this is the first episode back, I feel like I should talk about something that I know pretty well, and that's my district, which is NY-1. If you are not from the area, NY-1 is basically all of Suffolk County. It's one of the red districts in New York. It's like us. A lot of upstate New York, if you're not in a major city, is red. Nassau County, Staten Island up until 2 days ago was red when it flipped blue, and that's unheard of. But our election came down to the incumbent, Lee Zeldin, who was a veteran, who really puts veteran affairs first. I'm not going to knock Lee Zeldin for his record on that. What I am going to knock Lee Zeldin on is the fucking campaign he ran and how disgusting and race-baiting that campaign was, and how we should all be ashamed of ourselves from Long Island that he won. He won the election 130 votes to 130,000 to 110,000. So he lost by a margin of 20,000 votes. By comparison, when he ran in 2016 against Anna Throne-Holst, which is the presidential election year, he won 185,000 to 135,000. So it was a 50,000 vote margin difference there, and only a 20,000 vote margin here. And here's the thing. If you look at the math really quick that I just gave out, had every person who voted for the Democrats in Suffolk County come out and voted in this election, and voted for Perry Gershon, his competitor, there's a lot of blame to go around here. We'll get to Perry too in a little bit. But if you look at that, had every person come out and voted, Perry Gershon would have won. But people did not come out and vote for Gershon. He had about a 20,000 vote drop off. Zeldin, on the other hand, had the big drop off of about 50,000 votes. That is fucking colossal. 50,000 votes is a lot to drop off. And I think part of it is an indictment of his need to situate himself with President Trump. Because I think that was the indictment here. Because, number one, Lee Zeldin hasn't done too much in Congress to warrant him being, he doesn't have a great congressional record of doing things. He tends to align himself with far-right policies. Including he's with Trump on most things. Now, he is also, he is bipartisan. I'm not going to take that away from him. He does work with Democrats on some bipartisan bills, and he is very pro VA, and he's trying to work with Veterans Affairs, and that is something that needs to be worked on. However, we're going to talk about his campaign ads a little bit. I didn't see any of his TV ads. I don't watch much TV. I'm not a big TV person. I watch CWC if I'm going to watch anything on TV, because I just watch all those DC shows on there. But his mail flyers. I am registered independent. I am not registered to any political party. Therefore, anytime any scrap of mail comes out from any of the 2 major political parties, I get it. So I ended up like a scene out of the beginning of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, where I had I would get home from work and there would be hundreds and hundreds, and that's an exaggeration, but tens and tens of these pamphlets about why I should vote for each of the 2 candidates. And the Republican National Committee. Now, this isn't like in Florida, where it was a ultra-right nationalist group that was doing incredibly racist ads against Andrew Gillum. This was the Republican National Committee, who was just race baiting and trying to get people and feeding on fear, to try and get people to do what they want. And it's disgusting. They would, like, that TV ad that got some playtime with the really racist one about the cop killing illegal immigrant. We got those here, paper ad versions of that, weeks in advance. Weeks before that happened, we had ads that would say, Perry Gershon wants to allow illegal immigrants like MS-13 in. Illegal immigrants and MS-13 are two entirely different issues. And it's ridiculous. Now, Perry Gershon, on the other hand, did not run the best campaign either. One of the things that I noticed frequently about him, and my dad also noticed this about him, is that he never put his name on any of his ads, or any on the attack ads on Zeldin. It was always anti-Zeldin. So you didn't really have a unified front on that to do it. So they don't really... They didn't really do a good job there. Now the other problem is, if you're from Long Island, you know this. Long Island is a very, I don't know if tribal is the right word, or nationalist is the right word. It's like, Long Island has a very unique feeling about their regional identity, where it's like, people from Long Island recognize people from Long Island as being something different from people from the rest of the state. If you're from Long Island, you're from Long Island. If you're from the city, you're looked differently upon. If you're from upstate, you're looked differently on. It's a very... Regionalism is a big thing on Long Island. Why the fuck did the Democrats go to the city and take someone from Manhattan and put him up as the Democratic candidate? Who thought that was a good idea? Because Perry Gershon is not someone from Long Island. Was there no Democrat you can find out here, you can prop up and say, this is the guy you're going to vote for? You couldn't find anyone. And the other thing is, the other thing didn't bode well, is when you looked at the ballot, there were three candidates in our district. There was Perry Gershon, there was Lee Zeldin, who won, and then there was also a third-party candidate, the Women's Equality Party. That was Kate Browning. Kate Browning ran because the Women's Equality Party would not endorse Perry Gershon, which is not a good look if you're a Democratic candidate. If you're not getting endorsed by the Women's Equality Party, which endorsed every other Democratic candidate on the ballot this year, then why the hell do you think you have a chance you're going to win? If it's endorsing Cuomo, if it's endorsing every Democratic judge that's up in District 1, if all of that stuff, then why is he not endorsing Gershon? Why is this party not endorsing Gershon too? Therein lies a problem. Here's the other thing is, Gershon, I hadn't heard a single thing about him besides the fact that he, he's running. His campaign was never really made to look like what he was trying to, his own campaign never really set itself aside and said what it was trying to do is separate itself from Zeldin. So what I learned from this, and what the Democrats should learn from this, is that Long Island isn't red. To say that Long Island is red is ridiculous. Long Island is historically red. Long Island is, for a long time, red. I've seen names around here that I've been seeing all my life. I'm 24 years old, and I've been seeing the same names. Kenneth Laval. Like, Lee Zeldin was also running for local elections. These are all people who have been around for a very long time, and it's not that Long Island is red, it's that Long Island is deeply entrenched in its incumbents. With good investment and with a clear message, the Democrats could win Long Island, but they didn't come out and do that this year. That's what the problem is. They needed to come out and they needed to say, this is what Zeldin stands for. Make him answer questions about what he is saying. Because if he's coming out and saying that all illegal immigrants are MS-13, or all of MS... That's not the thing. Hang on, that's logically incorrect. If you're going based on the logic of that pamphlet where it said, allowing... The wording of the pamphlet was, he wants to allow illegal immigrants like MS-13 in. The allegation that makes is that every member of MS-13 is an illegal immigrant. And MS-13 on Long Island, I don't know if it's a nationwide thing or if it's just a regional thing for New York and New Jersey and Connecticut, but MS-13 gets a lot of playtime on local news because it's a massive gang that has like Brentwood on Long Island is overrun by it, and it's a major drug trafficking issue, and it's an issue of lots of homicides attributed to them and things like that. Now the problem is that when you attribute them to illegal immigrants and say illegal immigrants are coming as MS-13, and MS-13 is one of the things that come in from illegal immigration, that's what you're trying to do. You're scaring the people away. And you're scaring them into saying, we need to keep Zeldin in power because he's doing things to help. But give me one example of what Zeldin has done to help in his 2 years in office. I'll wait. I will fucking sit here and wait for you to come up with an example of something he has done. He's done the combat opioid epidemic, which was a bipartisan, almost 100% funded bill. I don't think there's a single member of Congress who said, we don't need to fund the opioid epidemic, that's not a problem. It's ridiculous. To say that that's an achievement of yours is fucking ridiculous. And meanwhile, you got Perry Gershon on the other side, who's trying to say, like, oh, Lee Zeldin's an idiot. He says that Social Security is a pyramid scheme. By definition, it's a pyramid scheme. I'm not a Republican. I don't agree with anything on the Republican platform. That said, Lee Zeldin was right about saying that it is a pyramid scheme. Do you know why? If it is based upon, if you have people who are making money on it at the top, and it is required that people on the bottom who are just starting to pay into it continue to pay into it to feed the people at the top, that is a pyramid scheme. And if the problem becomes the thing isn't getting paid because not enough people are buying into it, because the base isn't getting wide enough, it's a pyramid scheme. I feel like Jim on The Office, where it's like, here we have one person, then we each get one person, then each of those people get one person. That's what this is. It's just not illegal. And the problem with Social Security is the cap on the tax of $108,500. If they got rid of that cap, that would solve the Social Security problem, and we would never have to hear about it again. Because Tim Cook, who makes $25 million a year, gets Social Security income tax only on the first $108,000. Everything else, there's no income tax for Social Security. That's fucking ridiculous. That would solve the problem. If all these millionaires and billionaires, anyone making over $108,000, were to have to pay their Social Security into it continuously after that fact, then that would solve the problem right there. But no one wants to address that for some reason. That would solve the problem. So I think the big takeaways from New York 1, I think the next episode I'm cover is New York 2, where one of the racist kings resides. I don't think it's Stephen, I think it's Peter King. I think there are multiple Peter Kings in Congress and multiple Stephen Kings. There is a racist representative called King from Nassau County, and we'll address him next time. For this, my takeaway is, if you are a Democrat from New York District 1, and you are looking for a ticket to run on, in 2020, Lee Zeldin's up for re-election again. This year showed us that he can bleed. And bleed he did. And they put up someone who barely had a pulse against him. And here we are, he's still in office. If the Democrats had the turnout that they did in 2016 in our district, then Lee Zeldin would be out of office right now, and we would have Perry Gershon, who isn't a much better choice, but at least he isn't licking the asshole of Donald Trump. And with that, we'll wrap that up for this week. So we'll be back next week with New York 2, unless someone comments in with some other district they want me to talk about. And personally, if it's not, like, this one I'm able to talk a lot about because it's my district. I know how culturally things are around here. And really, if you walk around, you'll see a lot of Trump bumper stickers. You'll see a lot of people with thin blue line support on their stuff. A lot of Punisher logo with the thin blue line, which I always thought was weird because it's like the Punisher and the police are two vastly different organizations, because Punisher is judge, jury, and executioner, while the police, that's not their role. Their role is to arrest, and then there's a judge, a jury, and not in New York State, but in some other places there is an executioner. It's not the police's job to gun down those people. And there's a lot of ultra right-wing people out here. I've been seeing InfoWars stickers for my entire life, and it wasn't until very recently that I knew what it was. See, for me, InfoWars kind of felt like if you watch Doctor Who, the first season of the reboot, with Christopher Eccleston, and every episode had had Bad Wolf written somewhere in the background, and then all of a sudden it became a big deal at the finale. That's how it kind of felt for me, because I've been seeing InfoWars all over the place all my life. It's kind of like been background noise for, it's like bumper stick people would stick them to stop signs and things like that. But because of that, it's like, and then all of a sudden it's like Alex Jones and InfoWars, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what that is. But like, I'm gonna wrap it up there for today. If you do want me to comment on your district, then include some information about the district, what it's like there, I'll do some research on my own, what the median income is, what the racial demographics are, what the things are. Really, I'm concerned about what it would take to convert your district to the other party, and what the change was between the two, and what the change was between 2016 and now. And how the result was. Because MSNBC and CNN, all these other places aren't reporting on districts that aren't battlegrounds that didn't switch. And so it's worth looking into these, because every district should be a battleground district every year. Because to the people who live in that district, it matters. And it impacts them. And to say that because it's not one that's going to imminently flip, it doesn't matter and shouldn't get media coverage, is ridiculous. So write in your districts if you want. Email again, it's 30minutereviews@gmail.com, or you can just on Twitter at AdamTaylor792. And we'll be back with this next week.